We're a deep tech cybersecurity company pioneering privacy-preserving biometrics. And today I'd like to talk about how next-generation privacy-preserving biometric authentication can help you and your customers on a journey to zero trust, passwordless, and seamless digital experiences. Because let's face it, we all hate passwords, and we've seen stats like these before and felt the cost. Plus, in Europe, we have a whole host of regulation and compliance to adhere to, from the GDPR to the strong customer authentication requirements under PSD2 and our open banking directive. This all means we have to continuously work toward higher levels of security and privacy while making sure we maintain the trust and loyalty of our customers. And when it comes to customers, there's been much research into what they want, expect, and prioritize in applications or services. However, while a customer is willing to sacrifice some user experience in order to maintain security, there is a growing expectation that providers can't ignore user experience and, in fact, need to do more in that area. For example, Business Insider reported that more than 60% of European customers abandoned digital banking solutions in 2020 because of poor user experience. But what are some of the drivers? If you look at our personal lives over the last 12 plus months of the pandemic, where we not only work remotely, but we also shop remotely, we pay online digitally, so we bank online, we work out online, and that remote everything work is something that really puts user experience at front and center in how we live our digital lives. And that also increases the requirements for consumers when it comes to engaging in remote or online services. So we have high expectations on the experience that we experience, but also the level of trust in those solutions. So security and privacy is very important. And it looks like passwordless is the future, and actually a future that is not too far ahead. Gartner predicts that by 2022, so next year, more than 60% of large enterprises, and even more so, about 90% of the mid-size segment enterprises will implement passwordless authentication methods in some way or form. But passwordless authentication isn't the only major trend that we see in enterprise security. And Gartner's Emerging Technologies and Trend Impact Radar for Security in October last year, passwordless authentication is displayed as one of the main trends, which is high impact and immediate in front of us, and Fido is playing a huge part in that. In addition to that, zero trust networking, so identity-based security, is something that we all hear and read about, but something that puts identity and thus authentication front and center. Authentication of the device that we're using, the application that we are authenticating into, but also, and most importantly, the user who is authenticating. So putting the right user in context of what application is accessed from which device. And more so in the future, one trend that we are very excited about is that concept of decentralized identity, of personal identity management, as we call it. It puts users in control of their own identity information, lets them selectively disclose that identity data in a more private and secure way. But when we look at the evolution of authentication and where we've come from and where we had it, we are all familiar and live in that world of passwords for more than 60 years now. Added layers of security like hard tokens or soft tokens that we all know from the enterprise context or the way we make payments, for example, to biometrics as we know them today, predominantly from our smartphones, such as Apple's Touch or Face ID systems, or equivalent solutions like Samsung Touch in the Android context, to a future that we at Keyless see private and passwordless that we call zero-knowledge biometrics, which aren't the end of this evolution. In fact, we're seeing the future in a way that we own and selectively that we own and control and are able to selectively disclose our identity information in that context of decentralized identity that puts us as users in control of who we are and what we share. And authentication is playing a major role in that. And we are all familiar with those three distinct elements for authentication as who we are and what we have or what we own, and the credentials, the passwords we know that we all want to get rid of for great reasons. And the way that we see as the optimal solution is that we make ourselves the key or the password in that scenario and allow users to authenticate in a secure and private manner from any device without compromising on the security and privacy of that authentication process and the data that is involved in such. And we call this paradigm zero-knowledge biometrics, that isn't just passwordless, but also private, and as something much more than a compliance tick mark in a procurement function of a large enterprise, but a true value proposition as part of the solution that allows us to strongly authenticate and identify the individual rather than the possession of the device, and not to mention the credentials such as passwords. And this solution is built on three main building blocks. It verifies the device as a factor of possession through a zero-knowledge proof that makes that device a trusted factor. It transforms users' biometric information when looking into the camera using advanced cryptography and machine learning on the device and irreversibly encrypts that data, so it's fully anonymous and can never ever be decrypted or reconstructed again. And then a decentralized or distributed architecture and secure distributed private computation using a secure multi-party computation scheme that allows for that fully anonymous and private biometric matching in the encrypted domain. But the result of this process isn't just a binary yes or no and what we deem as a valid result of a biometric authentication process, but in fact, the generation of a cryptographic key or a private key that can be used to perform a one-time operation, such as generating a token and logging into an enterprise identity and access management system and a connected app, to authorize payments in a PSD2 compliant way, to sign documents or to perform verifiable claims about one's identity, after which that secret disappears again. So with keyless, there's no sensitive information stored on the user's device, no biometric data, but also no secret key material. But on the other side, and very importantly, there's no sensitive data stored in a central repository that could be hacked, attacked, or data could leak from. But with a simple look in the front-facing camera of any device, we perform true multi-factor authentication, whereby we verify the device as a factor of possession, completely independent of the device itself, the hardware manufacturer or the operating system, the face as a physical biometric factor, whereby we also ensure the liveness of the user. So you couldn't use a video or a picture. And we are very proud to be Fido certified in the biometric domain as one of 7 vendors worldwide, which you can see on the website. And in addition to the face recognition capabilities we offer, we're working on behavioral characteristics. So the way you interact with your device, such as hand movements, gestures, or swipes on the screen as an added layer of security that is transparently in the background. And we offer this across 2 major lines of solutions as passwordless authentication across the enterprise for workers, staff, contractors, partners, suppliers, when it comes to accessing workstations, connecting to applications, or logging in from a remote location. And on the consumer side, as a white label SDK that businesses can embed in their consumer-facing apps to strongly authenticate and identify their end users in a convenient way. And all this in a true omnichannel experience, from digital onboarding over strong authentication and signature use cases that run across any device with a seamless and consistent experience, and the authentication happens in a fraction of a second. One example I'd like to bring from the education context and a customer we're working with in Europe, Lewis University, where we are by now authenticating way more than 10,000 students for remote education services, so virtual exams, classrooms, etc., where we offer a solution that allows users or students to use their own devices, completely independent of which device that they're using, so without requiring any hardware investments for the school, in a consistent experience that not only authenticates the device the student is using, but also identifying the person when authenticating in a way that is frictionless and easy to use and doesn't introduce any burden from a compliance perspective. In the education context, we're working with global telcos, both in the US and Europe, around a 5G enabled use case, leveraging the multi-edge compute infrastructure that is being built in London and the East Coast in the US to make these experiences even faster and instant. To conclude, we are a company that's providing deep tech and cybersecurity solutions in the context of passwordless authentication for both the workforce and the consumer. We partner with companies in the ecosystem and Fido themselves. We offer this for employees and for consumers, and I very much look forward to being in touch and to explore how we could help you on your journey to passwordless and zero trust. With that, I thank you very much and wish you a wonderful event ahead. Thank you.